Diagnosing the Realities Behind the US-Korea Tariff and Investment Negotiations. Good day. I am Professor Nam Yong Lee, and I also serve as chairman of the Bukak Forum, a fellowship of more than 2,000 Ph.D. level policy experts devoted to guiding and enlightening the grassroots citizens of the Republic of Korea to promote a sound liberal democracy and a sustainable free market economy. In the autumn of 2025, the tariff and investment negotiations between the Republic of Korea and the United States have emerged as a decisive turning point that will determine the future direction of Korea's economy and diplomacy. On the surface, the talks appear to be focused on resolving trade imbalances and expanding mutual benefit. Yet beneath that surface lie overlapping layers of political calculation and the underlying tension of global power competition. President Donald Trump's protectionist pressure under the banner of America First has met with President Lee Jae-myung's national interest-driven response, placing both nations in a delicate strategic duel where each side measures every move with calculated precision. President Trump has consistently wielded the principle of America First as both ideology and instrument, never hesitating to use tariffs as a political weapon, even against allies, when he deems U.S. industries disadvantaged. President Lee, meanwhile, emphasizes industrial protection and economic autonomy, yet within the constraints of Korea's heavy trade dependence on the United States. Washington is now pressing for the full implementation of Korea's pledged $350 billion investment package, while Seoul seeks to restructure those commitments through a combination of guarantees, credit facilities, and public-private partnerships to ease fiscal pressure. The essence of these negotiations is not purely economic. They are a measure of the trust between the two nations and the maturity of their alliance. The central dilemma of tariff negotiations lies in how much to lower and where to draw the exceptions. The United States aims to secure its industrial advantage in key strategic sectors such as steel, automobiles, semiconductors, and batteries, while Korea faces the dual challenge of sustaining export competitiveness and protecting its domestic industries. The memory remains of 2018, when the Trump administration invoked Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, forcing Korea to accept a quota system to avoid a 25% tariff on steel. The current negotiations revisit those precedents and expand their scope, once again testing the structural resilience of Korea's industrial base. Simultaneously, discussions on currency liquidity cooperation, the Korea-US dollar swap arrangement, are unfolding in parallel. Korea has twice stabilized its financial markets through temporary dollar swaps, a $30 billion facility during the 2008 global financial crisis and a $60 billion arrangement during the 2020 COVID-19 crisis. However, the current talks focus not on a permanent swap system, but on a discretionary, temporary liquidity facility managed by the US Federal Reserve. In reality, such swaps are not granted as diplomatic favors, but are activated only when objective signals of financial instability arise. Therefore, it is dangerously misleading to portray the swap issue as a political achievement, or to inflate its significance as a negotiation card. What Korea truly needs is not wishful anticipation of a permanent swap, but the establishment of systemic safeguards such as the Federal Reserve's FIMA repo facility and a multi-layered liquidity backstop system. Some analysts have raised concerns about the possibility of another International Monetary Fund crisis. Yet Korea's current economic fundamentals differ greatly from those of 1997. Foreign reserves are ample, fiscal soundness is strong, and financial supervision is far more robust. However, volatility could surge again if the combination of global high interest rates, a strong US dollar, and declining global trade persists. Moreover, if large-scale external investments and tariff negotiations are simultaneously delayed, short-term imbalances in foreign currency demand could trigger renewed market instability. The core of crisis management, however, is not in the numbers but in trust. The Korean government must maintain transparency, by clearly communicating the structure and progress of the negotiations, presenting a phased roadmap for tariff reduction, and disclosing the implementation rates of investment commitments. Only through such openness can trust be sustained. The World Trade Organization, WTO, upholds three foundational principles: most favored nation treatment, MFN, national treatment, NT, and predictability. And these are not mere formalities. The transparency of tariff policy is a cornerstone of national creditworthiness and the foundation of diplomatic trust. Korea must now shift from a diplomacy of numbers to a diplomacy of trust, recognizing that the ultimate measure of success lies not in exchange rates or investment figures, but in how the public and industry experience the outcomes of these negotiations. The current Korea-US negotiations have evolved beyond tariffs and investments. They have become a test of economic sovereignty and alliance credibility. With the resurgence of America-centered trade policy under a second Trump administration and Korea's structural dependence on the US economy, Seoul faces the challenge of achieving a delicate strategic balance. What is required now is not emotional reaction or short-term political theatre, but calm and far-sighted national strategy. The government must place economic substance and the livelihood of the people above political symbolism and safeguard the nation's credibility before its diplomatic image. The history of Korea's recovery from crisis has always been clear. The nation grew stronger whenever it responded to adversity, not with emotion but with reason, not with words but with action, and not with compromise but with principle. The current negotiation table is therefore not merely a site of economic discussion, but a historic moment to redefine the coordinates of the Korea-US alliance in the 21st century. The direction of those coordinates will depend entirely on the decisions we make today. The Republic of Korea must now build a new era of diplomatic and economic strategy founded upon national interest, trust, and principle. For that is the only path by which we can preserve the free market system and secure the future of our people. Thank you very much.